All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll have three student athletes for you this afternoon. We're going to start with kicker Will Ross. Please raise your hand and I will call on you each for questions, and we'll begin with Andy Bitter.
Hey, Will, Coach Pry was telling us a little bit about your story a couple of weeks ago. You had never kicked in a college, you'd never played a college or a football game before the opener of this season. What led you to this moment, and what kind of got you here?
Yeah, so pretty much other than like middle school flag football, rec sports, stuff like that, I've never really played like organized football. So basically I had played soccer all through high school. Um, Pretty much everybody on my team was committed to play D1 and for soccer, of course. And I was going to play for a youth academy in Spain in Valencia. And I kind of just felt a little guilty, I guess, that I wasn't just being like a normal kid, just going to college, just living like a normal life. And I kind of changed my mind about wanting to move to Spain. And my dad was like, well, if you just want to go to college and just be a normal kid, why don't you just like try football? Like you played soccer, you have the leg for it. Why don't you just try kicking and see where that can take you? And then I guess things kind of worked out from there.
What was your path to Virginia Tech? You went to Coastal and then you went to South Carolina, but you were just a student at South Carolina. What was your whole sort of path there?
Yeah, so I kind of grew up a South Carolina fan, being from South Carolina. So I went to Coastal my freshman year, just the fall semester. And then that just wasn't really the school for me. Parents weren't really happy there. So I made a decision to transfer to South Carolina and just try to walk on there. And things there didn't really work out. And I was really motivated to make it happen. And I really wanted to play. So my kicking coach, Dan Warner, who's in Charlotte, I kind of sat down with him, and throughout that semester that we were at home, because of COVID, I trained with him like every day, and he was like, I think you need to like enter your name into the portal, because I was a student at South Carolina. If you really want to play, you need to go in the portal. So I spent the entire summer and entire fall training with him, and his relationship with one of the previous coaches on the staff here, as well as Joey Sly, is kind of the reason I ended up here.
How did he know Joey Sly? Was that just from past work he's done with him, or?
Yeah, he's Joey Sly's kicking coach also.
Okay. And then when you get here, and obviously there's the coaching staff, what's going through your mind in terms of like, oh, I got to prove myself again to brand new people like that? How was that competition in the off season?
It was pretty interesting because I mean nobody really knew who I was when I got here. Like usually, I mean the kicking world's a pretty small group of people, a pretty select group of people. So like I mean I know guys now at all the SEC schools, ACC schools, and none of the guys here like really knew who I was. So it's kind of a mystery in a way. And Parker Romo, who was here last year, obviously wasn't too happy that they brought another kicker in, but it's been fun.
Thank you.
Sir.
Go over to David Cunningham now.
Yeah, well, what position did you play when you played soccer?
I was goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So were you pretty good with your feet then?
Oh yeah, that was definitely the strongest part of my soccer game. Was just putting the ball anywhere I wanted to on the field, anytime. So,
When you were growing up, did football? What was it? Soccer first? How did you get into playing soccer? And was football ever in question?
yeah, so football honestly was never really in question. I mean, my dad played football when he was in high school, so he kind of wanted me to. But when I was in probably elementary and middle school, like super young, I met these two brothers who immigrated from Uruguay, Alex and Enzo Martinez, and they played soccer, and it was a huge part of their life. And ever since that day, I've kind of looked up to Alex as a role model, and he's kind of the one that I would give credit to getting me into soccer for.
Do you remember the first time you kicked a football? What that was like?
Yeah, so I was actually at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I was getting my mom a birthday present, and that's when I was talking to my dad about like I forgot what it was, but I was like, what color or size or whatever does she need? And he was like, well, while you're there, I know we talked about it a little bit. Why don't you just go pick up a couple footballs, and after you get off of practice tonight, we'll go out to a field and kick. So I was actually shopping for my mom's birthday present when I got like a football to go out and kick with, and he made a little holder out of PVC pipe. So it was pretty interesting.
So you had that kind of this career kind of laid out for you? You kind of thought about going and playing professional soccer in youth academies overseas. What was the adjustment like, and to decide to not follow that path to go be an ordinary college kid? What was that like? And do you ever wish you went the other way?
Sometimes I just wonder what my life would look like had I done that. Because I mean, Europe was hit a lot worse with COVID than we were, and I would have been there for 6 months before it hit, 7 months. So sometimes I think about that, but it's definitely weird because I played at a pretty high level of soccer, so the adjustment to like that level of soccer to this level of like physical and mental like requirements isn't that different. But just the adjustment from going to like a soccer locker room to a football locker room it was pretty hard to get used to at first.
Did you have any football or any soccer offers?
Just small schools.
Yeah.
That's kind of what pushed me to. I was gonna go to High Point, but that's kind of what pushed me to try a youth academy in Europe. Just I want to go to a big school.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go to Steve Hemphill, please.
Well, you had that first game there, and you had your first opportunity to your first field goal opportunity. That was when the snap was off target, right?
Yes, sir.
What was you kind of prepared for this moment, and then some chaos breaks out. What was that experience like?
In the moment, everything kind of just happened in a blur. It happened so fast. Like in the moment, I didn't really have time to think about it. But I mean, we've practiced like that kind of like fire situation a bunch of times. So
Did you get hit on that play at all?
towards the end, yeah.
Was that kind of your first contact then, or had you taken some contact in practice?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. So once that happened and you came back and you converted that 44-yarder after that, as far as your mindset and everything, how did you keep yourself composed after that? And because then you're probably thinking more about the snap and everything more than you probably had in quite a while.
Yeah. So one thing my kicking coach has taught me, and he's kind of passed on to me from some of his NFL guys, is you have to have a next kick mentality. So, I mean, the kick that had happened before then, no matter what the outcome was, I had already forgotten about it the second it was over, and it was already on to the next one.
Then the next week, the BC game, then you're dealing with rainy conditions and all that. How much different was that compared to when you were in the dry conditions?
Not at all. Same process every time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go over to Aaron McFarling, please.
Hey, Will, as somebody with a discerning soccer eye, how concerned should we be about yesterday's 0-0 thrill with Saudi Arabia?
To be completely honest, I don't really watch much soccer anymore, but I'm guessing you're talking about the U.S. team.
Yeah.
Probably very concerned.
You mentioned the dynamics of a soccer locker room are different than a football locker room. How so? I mean, what is it like there versus here?
So I guess the biggest difference is the position groups versus like a soccer locker room. Like when we're at the hotel, like for away games, like for soccer and stuff like that, it's the whole team hangs out together because there's only probably 18 of us on a team, which is similar to like a position group here. So it's like the specialists, we always hang out together at the hotel. Like the quarterbacks always hang out, the tight ends always hang out. So it's like, that was one big adjustment, is like you kind of have like a set group of people on the team that you can always rely on or lean on, and that's your position group. So
I guess a goalkeeper is kind of a specialist in itself, right? So you got a little bit of experience being a little bit different from the other guys on the team.
Yes, especially I think it's kind of helped me just knowing that a lot of situations in soccer as a goalkeeper, you have everybody's eyes on you. And I think kind of dealing with that pressure or those kind of nerves has definitely prepared me mentally for kicking.
Have you done better than you anticipated? I mean, it's been pretty amazing. You know, they're not just sneaking over the bar either. I mean, these are all really good kicks that you've had.
No, I mean, I felt very prepared and very confident coming into the year. I've done a ton of preparation with with Dan Orner, my kicking coach. I've had tons of reps with Pete and Enzo. So, I mean, I felt very confident, very comfortable going into the season.
Thanks, man.
Sure.
Let's go to Mr. Teal, please.
I'm just wondering, Will, what do you think your range is? I mean, most of your kicks have been beyond 40. How far can you go?
Pretty much as far as they need me to. I mean, I think I hit a 58-yarder halfway up the pipes in pregame against West Virginia. So
When you first started this adventure, did it come easily to you right away where you thought, hey, this really isn't that difficult? Or was it just the opposite? It was like, oh, this is a little more challenging than I thought it would be.
it was exactly that. It was just the opposite. So my first ever session with Dan Orner, I was out there with Cam Lewis, who's the kicker at Oregon. And I had been kicking for like a week at the time. And I went out there with him. And I mean, he was blasting 45, 40-yard kicks, like over the uprights. And I was out there like hitting them short, like didn't know how to kick or anything like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've got a long way to go if I want to make this happen. So
What was the most difficult part of it? Was it technique? Was it footwork? And because it's not like you can just run up and kick it with all your strength. You know, there's time involved and such.
Yeah, it's definitely a technique thing. But I think it's also, you have to be a lot stronger mentally, just because you have to be able to repeat the same motion, the same process every single time. And I mean, that was probably the hardest part for me to get used to was being able to replicate the same thing every time.
Were you a football fan, and did you watch kickers before this?
Not really.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, we have time to go back around real quick. We'll go back to Andy.
Yeah, Will, when we were talking to Coach Pry, he was saying that Stu Holt didn't tell him before the opener that you'd never played in a football game before. Did Stu tell you to keep that kind of on the down low?
No, I had no idea. Coach Pry didn't know. I had no idea.
Was there any thought, I mean, having never played in a football game in a long time, when you go out there for the first time, is it just like the mechanics of kicking on the field? Were there any nerves with that, stepping into an unusual situation again?
No, I was actually very surprised about how easy it was. I mean, playing in the game, I think is probably easier than practice, just because in practice, your coach is right behind you. And in the game, you're just out there, you're just having fun with it. And I mean, the other thing is, I think I mentioned this a little earlier, is I've done hundreds of thousands of reps with Enzo and Pete, Enzo snapping and Pete holding. So, I mean, I know I can do it. I've seen myself do it hundreds of thousands of times. Like it's kind of just having fun with it now.
And you mentioned basically your entire team from high school was going overseas to play. Anybody we would know of?
No, they were all like playing in college. Like I was
playing in college. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Misheard that. Thank you.
Yep.
Go back to David Cunningham for the last one.
Yeah, Will, you mentioned Pete and Enzo. What's your relationship with those guys like? And as somebody who, doesn't have a lot of kicking experience in a football game, how beneficial have they been to kind of lean on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually lived with Enzo last year, so I'm really close with him. But Pete's been really good. I mean, all the questions I've had, or maybe nerves I've had in pregame or something like that, I've been able to lean on him a lot and kind of, in a way, like look up to him as a football player, and I've definitely learned a lot from him.
And you mentioned that you first tried kicking when you were getting your mom a birthday present. Does your mom know that story? And
He does.
Do your parents often come to games? I don't know what the drive is like or the commute is like for them.
Yeah, they come to all the games. So we go back to that all the time about how crazy it was that like I was literally just getting her a birthday present. My dad was like, by the way, just like go grab a football while you're there and we'll go out to a field. But yeah, we joke about that all the time.
Thanks, Will.
Yes, sir.
All right, Will, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back with Cole Nelson shortly. All All right, folks, we're joined now by defensive lineman Cole Nelson. Please use the raised hand function. We'll go around for questions. First one I see is David Cunningham. Kick us off.
Yeah, Cole, how do you feel like you and the rest of the defensive line have played through the first 4 weeks? What have you liked about the group's performance and yourself individually?
I say our group's performance has been pretty good. Ty had went down, but we picked up the slack in the Wolford game for him. We've been playing pretty good. We Coach Price, really like the whole defense. We really just been trying to like emphasize on like trying to get pressure on the quarterback, trying to get not just hits, sacks, trying to create a lot of disruption up front, just pushing the pocket, making sure we're playing on the opposite side of the offense.
What stands out to you about North Carolina's quarterback, Drake May, this week?
Drake, he's pretty good. He's a very good player, especially how young he is. He's a redshirt freshman. One thing that we have seen a lot that he can hit his targets. So we gotta make sure we put pressure on him. Make sure you try and get sacks. And on top of that, he can also run too. So we also have to be aware of that. So when we're pushing that pocket, we got to make sure he doesn't escape, and we got to keep the tan on.
When Taiwan is carrying the lunch pail, when the lunch pail is in your room, how cool is that? How satisfying is that? And do you hope you have the opportunity to carry the lunch pail someday?
I do. I really do hope I do carry the lunch pail someday in the future. It's a very big deal for us. Especially for Coach Price when he had the lunch pail back when he was playing. He just brings a different. It just brings even more like we gotta even like bring more to the game as a defensive line unit.
Thanks.
Let's go out to Mike Barber, please.
Yeah, I'm curious, what kind of a teammate and what kind of a leader has Dax Hollifield been for your defense this year?
Dax Hollifield, he's been a very great teammate. He's always there. He's always trying to get us riled up, ready for the game. Rather, even if we're not playing, we're at practice. He's ready to get as a defense, not even just as a defense, for the whole team. He's just trying to get us ready for practice, have a great week of practice, so we can go compete with our next opponent. On top of that, even like off the field, like you can see him walking around. He's just like the ultimate teammate. We talk about that in our team meeting. Just the ultimate teammate, not just on the field. It could be off the field, just all around. He's just our ultimate teammate. He's just always everywhere, all the time.
He talked to me in the preseason about the idea of wanting to have a tight message and stress consistency. Is that something you hear from him a lot, about being consistent?
Yes. That's one thing about our defense. Like, we want to stay consistent. We don't want to lack in one thing. Like, we want to, like, our motto is excellence for the defense. Every time Coach Marv says what's our standard, we say excellence. So we want to stay consistent and just keep going.
It seemed like you guys were playing real well the other night, and then maybe wore down midway through the third quarter into the fourth quarter. Did it feel that way to you? And how eager are you to get back on the field after not ending that game the way you guys wanted?
To me, I wasn't really focused on everyone else. I was really just focused on myself a lot. I was ready to just keep competing. Coach Pryor, all he talks about is competing. And that's what I was just trying to do the entire time. Just keep competing and not just giving up just because our opponent was up and had the upper hand on us.
Thank you.
Let's go out to Brooke Leonard, please.
Hello.
Hey.
I would just want you to, scout UNC's offense and tell me what stands out to you and what might pose a challenge on Saturday outside of the weather.
I say their left tackle. He's a very older guy, big, strong, can't just run down the middle of them. I really like their whole offensive line. They're pretty good up front. We just got to make sure do our assignments, and then of course their quarterback, Drake. We just got to make sure he's not out there just running around. Got to make sure we put pressure on the pocket, try and just get sacks, get hits on the quarterback, stop and run.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over to Andy Bitter, please.
Hey, Cole, I'm curious, what is most different for you in year 2 versus year 1?
What's more different for me, the game has kind of slowed down a little bit more for me from freshman year. I'd say that's 1. 2, I say I just grown confidence-wise, just getting out there on the field, not being like nervous about what my assignment is. Like back freshman year, I knew what my assignment was, but at the same time, I just also was like more like I didn't want to mess up. So I say that's 2. And 3, I was just like I'm having a lot more fun with it because I'm able to just go full speed and not have to worry about anything. Just full throttle, just going at it.
Where has JC Price really pushed you the most? And does he treat you any different now that you've had a little bit of experience under your belt? Does he coach you harder or to a more difficult level in the scheme from that standpoint?
Nah, he coaches me the same as I was for freshman year, and that really goes for all of us in this room. He coaches us the same. He doesn't just because you're making some plays. He doesn't really. I mean, he cares that you're making plays, of course. He wants you to be a productive player, but he's gonna coach you the same. He's gonna coach you hard. He's gonna coach everybody hard because he loves all of us. I say, and that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go over to Aaron, please.
Hey, Cole, I was reading a story from when you committed. I guess you were recruited by the coach to be a discus thrower, and you ended up being so fast that they put you on the relay team. Is that right? Or did that not happen?
Nah. I did used to play a little bit of distance back in high school. I did do a little bit of track. I just did it for fun, really, just to do a little bit for the spring, during the spring. But yeah.
Do you know what your wingspan is? Is it 80 inches plus?
Wingspan. I can't remember. I remember I got it measured back probably my sophomore, junior year when we were doing like a team visit as like a high school football team in Kentucky, but I can't remember.
Well, I guess your coach said you had enormous hands, like some of the biggest hands he's ever seen.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, what do people ever comment on the size of your mitts? Or
yes, they do. They do that a lot. My dad always, every single time I shake his hand, or every single time I shake one of his friends' hand, they always talk about how big my hands are. It's kind of funny.
I'm sure it helps. I mean, that's a good thing in football, right? I mean, when you're hand fighting in the trenches.
Oh yeah, when you're going against those big linemen, they got big hands too. So got to keep it equal playing field somehow.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we have time for a few more. If you want to raise your hands for a follow-up for Cole. And if not, Cole, thanks for coming in. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys, we're now joined by Dax Hollifield. I already see some questions coming through, so let's go to Mike Barber to start.
Hey, Dax, when you talked to me in the preseason, you talked about tightening your message as a leader and preaching consistency. I'm curious, when you look around this defense, are you seeing what you want, and do you think your message is getting across?
I do. It didn't really show up last week, but I think where our message is being consistent, is being who you are Monday through Friday, is going to show up on Saturday. And I truly believe that happened on last Thursday as well. Thought we practiced well all week. Mentally, I thought we fit things right, but we sort of didn't. The physical part wasn't there. We obviously didn't tackle well on Thursday. I felt like that was a combination of us not really tackling and not having the physical element at practice all week, and that's the reason I feel like we didn't get the job done. But consistency, we're still preaching that. Day in, day out, just gotta go back to work. That's all you can do.
Obviously, you've been a very productive player during your college career, but it seems like you've maybe elevated your game this year. Do you feel that way? And if so, why do you think that is?
Yeah. I think just different philosophies that Coach Pry and Coach Marv has taught me. Just trying to, instead of like, you're more playing on edges, not blocking myself, not taking on blockers, not for those in years past, I would like really try to use my hands a lot, use my body to like get around people. But now I don't even need to like mess with them. I just blade them, clear my hips, and go make plays. And so I feel like that is I've been more productive due to that, and also just I would say just consistently being who I am each and every day at practice. It shows up on the field on Saturday. So it's really been my whole MO this off season.
In the time you've been there, Tech has targeted a lot of recruits out of North Carolina. Obviously, there's a lot of familiarity for you at this point with that team. You've played them a bunch. Is this game a little extra special for you?
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's always the one on the radar that I don't want to lose. Like it means a lot to me. They don't like me. I'm not a big fan of them. So I can't wait to go down there to Keenan and get booed the first time I make a tackle. It's really gonna make my day. So yeah, it does mean something special to me. So just trying to, and also just trying to get this team a win. We need it desperately right now, and just trying to get this thing back on track. And we're 1-0 in the ACC right now. West Virginia didn't go our way. ODU didn't go our way, but honestly, those don't affect us whatsoever when it comes to the ACC. And honestly, that's all that really matters. The past has been past, and just got to keep looking forward to this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go out to David Teal, please.
Dax, when you went to Chapel Hill as a freshman in 2018, did any of your older teammates regale you with stories about the 2016 game there in the Hurricane?
I was there.
I wondered if you were.
At that game, it was incredible. 34-3, I'm pretty sure. It was raining cats and dogs, but hopefully it does the same exact thing this Saturday. I'm praying for it to just pour. So it's gonna be a fun one regardless. But yeah, I was in the stands. I remember seeing Jack Tyler, Cody Grimm, and a few Jonathan Galante coming down from the press box at the end of the game, and just saying what's up to them, and then laughing and stuff like that. It was a good time. So I do remember that very vividly.
So you sat through the entire game?
Oh yeah, I was there the whole time. I was there for a recruit, as a North Carolina recruit. So at halftime, we got some snacks in their little place, but we went right back out there and sat under my poncho and watched the game. It was great.
So you were there as a North Carolina recruit rooting for?
Well, honestly, I didn't know who I was rooting for yet, but yeah, it was. I don't know. It was just a blowout. It was at that point I was like, yeah. I was like 2 years forward. I was like my sophomore, junior year of high school. So
yeah,
definitely had no clue I was going yet, but that was definitely a good day for the Hokies in my book. So
cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Let's go out to David Cunningham this time.
Dax, did that game help sell you on Virginia Tech and seeing Bud Foster's defense do what it did?
Yeah, that whole year really sold me. 2016 year. It felt like my type of crowd. They fought their way, and they didn't start off great. They got blown out by Tennessee, the Battle of Bristol. We got beat by Syracuse at Syracuse, but they found a way and just kept chugging along and really finished out the year well. But they got the wrestlers here and they're in there screaming, so I'm giggling a little bit. But yeah, that was that year, the 2017 year, were pretty big in selling me the success they had as a recruit. So, but that game was definitely a cool one to look back on.
What stands out to you about Drake May and this explosive North Carolina offense?
He's got a good arm. He'd probably be top quarterback here in a few years in the ACC, if not the entire country. He's not afraid to run the ball. Good at scrambling. I've been impressed with him. I mean, the stats show he's been throwing everywhere, and he has good playmakers around him. He's a good player, but hopefully that definitely will not happen on Saturday. So that's my big thing. So
How would you describe Kelly Lawson, and for somebody who had surgery and missed a couple weeks at the beginning of the year, for him to come back and play like he has, what does that say about him?
He's a dog. I really like Kelly. He's gonna be. I remember like Reggie Floyd telling me my freshman year at UNC that game. He was like, "You're next. You're one of the next guys." And I vividly remember that, and like I feel the same way about him. He's one of those the next generation of the Hokies, LPD, and so like, he throws his body around. He's not scared to go out and make a play. He's willing to learn. He's overall a pretty good kid, so I like him a lot. And he's a hell of a ball player. He's got a lot of range. Very big frame. Not big yet, but more long frame, which you can build a lot on. Can really run. We got a really good room right now at the young linebacker room. Very excited. See what they can do in the future.
Awesome, thanks.
No problem.
Let's go over to Andy Bitter, please.
Yeah, Dax, you've played in some pretty memorable games against UNC over the years, including a pretty epic one. Is there one that stands out in your mind as your favorite, and for what reason?
The 6 overtime one was cool. Last year's was good, but really my freshman year was really cool. Going down there and winning that was big time. Really, I mean, I remember like it was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes left in the game, and they had a really big pop pass to the tight end. He ran like maybe like 60, 70 yards down like the 5-2, like inside the 5-yard line. And I'm thinking like, dang man, like we're so close. And so we're going like an all-out blitz to just not let him get in. And I'm on the opposite side of the line, and I see the ball pop up, and Khalil Adler put his head right on the ball. And he just popped straight up right on the goal line. I remember Javon Quillen picking it up and stumbling into the 3-yard line. I think he might have, if he would have had caught his balance, he might have scooped and scored and took it to the crib. But at the end of the day, we had like a 95-yard drive to win the game. And honestly, being on the sideline, that was pretty memorable, like for me. Just being really recruited hard by UNC and Virginia Tech, and sort of my homecoming for me, being a North Carolina guy, it meant a lot to me. And getting that dub there was pretty memorable.
And Coach Pry mentioned this week that he to address the penalties, he consulted with some of the captains on the team and asked you guys, came up with some consequences for penalties possibly on Sunday. What were those conversations like, and did you encourage that whole thing?
Yeah, we definitely need to fix that. Everybody needs to be more conscious of how their actions affect the team and affect our chances of winning. He puts up a stat every week about your chances of, like, if you win the penalty battle. Virginia Tech's been like 80%, has won like 80% of their games, and so if you don't, you're like a bad percent as well. So like it means a lot. And so what we've done is for every yard of penalties you get, you have a 40-yard sprint. So technically, I would have had 25 40-yard sprints on Sunday if we would have started this past weekend, which I'm thankful for. But going forward, every yard you have penalties, we're going to do a 40-yard sprint on Sundays after Sunday's practice. So hopefully it will help us lessen our penalties. But
so that's not retroactive, is what you're saying?
People need to be more aware of how their actions affect the big picture game, you know. But yeah, I think it's going to be good.
With the roughing call that you had last week, was that, I'd watched it a couple times. Did you feel like it was late? Was it just high? What happened on that one? Or did you think it wasn't roughing?
I think they're trying to protect the quarterback. Thought me personally, I thought I did everything right when it comes to just form tackling the ball carrier. it was as soon as I hit him, the ball's out. So I don't think it was late or anything. My true opinion, I think sometimes they have a predetermined decision in their head. Just looking on film, it looks like the guy was already like grabbing for the flag before I even hit the quarterback. But it is what it is. There's really no, in that situation, I probably need to lay off the quarterback, even though like you've been taught your whole career to like, or your whole life to like, go get him. You, I mean, you never know, but like they're trying to protect those guys, and that's the rule is the rule. I got penalized for it, and there's really no anything else to say about it. So
Thank you.
no problem.
Got time for a few more. Let's go to Mike Barber.
Dax, you were talking about some of the difference in the defense with trying to avoid blocks, get around them as opposed to kind of taking on blockers. What are some other differences in just the way you guys are playing technique wise in this defense?
Definitely stance and having a good pad level, focusing on that at linebacker each and every play has been huge. Just communication as well, being able to talk to each other on the field at all times. Like that's been a fundamental of ours this whole off season, this whole time Pry's been here. I mean, the first day he came in, he was like, communication is going to be a fundamental. And that's on the field, off the field, in every aspect of life, communicating with everybody in the facility, in our program, like being able to do that. And then it translates on the field to like, if there's a check, like I need to be able to get it to every person on the defense. And like, that's critical. So I feel like I've seen major improvements in that aspect of our defense.
And this maybe is a bit of a long shot, although it was raining so much, you might remember the answer. That Hurricane game when you were there as a recruit, do you remember what you were wearing?
I know I was wearing a poncho, I'll tell you right now. I honestly don't remember. I usually wore my like Shelby High, like black hoodie and some khakis and probably some J's, but honestly, I have no clue. I can't remember at all. But definitely a poncho, I'll tell you right now, or some kind of rain jacket. But yeah,
Sounds
it was
good.
pouring.
Thanks, man.
No problem.
We have time for maybe one more if someone has a follow-up real quick. David Teal will be the last one today.
Dax, we've talked about all your trips to Chapel Hill except for the COVID game.
Yeah.
Was that among the more bizarre afternoons of your career, just because of how shorthanded you guys were and you're drawing up plays in the dirt? And
we just like, we were so like, we lost like a quarter of our team, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, against like 2 now NFL running backs, 2 NFL quarterback, and 2 or 3 NFL wide receivers, like big time playmakers. Like having guys that have, and also Chamari got called for targeting the first quarter. We're out Divine Diablo. We have guys that have never played an actual football game out there playing. And so like it got to a point where like, I mean, we just started to like make things up on the sideline. Like we didn't really have like a 4-3 package, like 3 linebacker package, but at the end of the game, like we just started making up like they just put me, Rook, and Allen out there just to try to stop the run. And like it was just it was the most draw scheme up in the dirt thing I've ever seen. And so like I really wish we wouldn't have played that game, looking back on it. I know we probably needed to, because we already canceled UVA, but like it was bad. That game, we just had so many people out, people testing positive. We were just so shorthanded. You know, I wish I could get that back. You know, if we probably gotten that bag, I would have probably be undefeated against these dudes. So looking to keep that streak going.